Okay, well, hi everyone. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I have a very, very special guest. I'm joined today by Spartan, Bare Knuckle pit fighter Gary Slator, who recently challenged for the European title against Ben Waddington. Came up short in that fight, but this man has a very, very bright future ahead of him, yet to come in the fight game. And as always with my interviews, we're not just talking about the fight game, but we're also talking about life itself, because I'm going to put this out there. Some of the things that Gary has overcome to get where he is today, to become the man he is today, is absolutely amazing. And it shows if one person can do it, then another person can as well. So that's a little intro for you. Thank you for coming on the show, and it's great to have you here, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Liam. It's a pleasure to be on the interview, mate. Thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. So obviously we will talk about, bare knuckle boxing, we will talk about boxing and your training and everything. But before we do, let's go back in time a little bit. Let's talk about some of your earlier years and where you came from. Because as I said just now, you've overcome like in what are you, 23? I mean, in that time you've overcome more than some
23, yeah.
people come in a lifetime. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing. So talk to us a little bit about where you grew up, and starting at the beginning. Obviously, there was a revelation that you had with your parents and with your background. It wasn't really what you thought it was, if you get where I'm going with this. So let's
Yeah,
start.
yeah. So I was brought up in a small town called Jarrow. Um, yeah, brought up in a working class family. Everything was all good. Up until a certain point later on in my life, when I was about 14. Um, everything was sweet up until then, man. But I found out a little something. One day I came home from school. I don't know what it was, but I just taught myself I need to go and have a look for something, and I did, and I was a bit nosy, and I done a bit digging, and I found some documents, and then documents were actually adoption forms, and I think up until that, everything was good up until that point, and when I found that, my world just crumbled at my feet. So I think for me, that's where kind of the mental health all started from, just the feeling that I was different to everyone else, and I think so that's where the depression and my anxiety stemmed from. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. So that was the start. I mean, man, I can't imagine what a shock it must have been at the time and everything. In terms of your relationship with like your adopted parents and everything, are you still close to them now, or after you found that out, did it sort of affect things and put things on a different way?
yeah. Well, it did because I kind of distanced myself because I thought like, why aren't you telling me about this? And I pushed them away a little bit. I did, um, but coming to think of it now, it was the best thing that could have happened during the circumstances. Me biological family were drug addicts. I came from a terrible, terrible background. Me birth mother was injecting heroin into us when I was a baby. Um, so I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate to be where I am now. But like you say, 13, 14-year-old, when I found that out, man, I had a fragile mind then, and it ruined us. But now everything, I'm at peace with it. I've overcome it. I've had plenty of time to think about it. But yeah, the relationship with them is second to none. Amazing, absolutely amazing now. But I did push them away. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. I mean, especially at that young age as well. I mean, we're at an age in that time where we're sort of figuring ourselves out and finding out where we fit in the world anyway. So then to have something like that dropped on you, it's a big one. So obviously after this revelation that you had, after you realized that this was going on, your mental health, as you've described to me when we were setting this up, took a little bit of a turn. You mentioned like self-harm, you mentioned depression. Now, as I said earlier, before we started recording, I never dwell on anything negative. This is all about showing people how you can overcome anything in life,
of course.
because
Yeah,
obviously you've been to like the deepest, darkest place where you don't want to be here anymore and all that, and you're still here and you're thriving. You've got a family, you've got your boxing career. We'll get to all that soon. But at that time, where did it really start with like self-harm, depression? What were some of the things you were going through as a teenager, basically?
So it was just at school. I just felt I was so after. after that revelation, I just felt I was so different and I wasn't worth anything. And then kind of it's just started with, it was an escape for me. The self-harming was an escape. I was cutting myself and things like that. And yeah, it was just a dark place that I was in, but it got worse. It got much worse than that. Much worse than that.
Absolutely, which we'll touch on as well. Just to mention it briefly though, during that time of your life, were you much of a scrapper, like on the street or anything, or did that sort of come a bit later type of thing?
Yeah, well, that was all through my school years. I was always fighting, getting into trouble. You know, we had fights on the schoolyard, stuff like that, as you do. But out of school, there was a lot of what that came with me depression. There was a lot of drinking. I started drinking from a young age, abusing some substances at like 16, 17 year old. You know, it's not good. And we were obviously scrapping on the streets nearly every other night, constantly getting arrested and stuff like that. So yeah, you could say I like the scrap back then.
Absolutely, yeah. It sounds like that's always been a part of you. And it's always been something you've been involved in, but now obviously it's sort of paying off in a way, isn't it? You know, now it's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
positively. So we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, before we do, I mean, obviously, let's see, we've talked about the mental health and everything, but I'm not sure how easy this is for you to talk about, and I know you're a very open person, but still, what we're about to get into with like suicide attempts, basically, I just want to say to
yeah,
you that I've got a massive amount of respect for the fact you're putting that out there, like in public type of thing, you know. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but at the same time, it's still a very brave thing to speak. Do you know what I mean? So that's just me saying
yeah,
that to you. Yeah, that time. I mean, obviously, this got worse to a point where you realized you didn't want to be here, you didn't want to be on this planet anymore at that time. Just share with us a little bit about what happened in as much detail or as little detail as you'd like to. I really don't mind, you know.
yeah. So after school, I got into a relationship pretty early. It was quite a mentally abusive relationship. I had my first son. And long story short, I don't want to get too much into that, but I was stopped from seeing my son, and through no fault of mine. It was just stupidity, and it was a confusing time. But anyway, I I left that relationship, and I just took a turn for the worst, man. Me head was gone. Um, I I was cutting myself. The self harm had got so badly, and that I had slashed myself from the top of my eye all the way to the bottom of my chin, and you could see me jaw through my cheek. It was that bad. The doctor said, like, if I was a few centimeters more, I would have cut me jugular and bled out. Yeah, and then from that, from a couple of months after that, I was lying on the tracks at a metro station near us, where the police removed us, and I kind of wasn't getting the help that I needed, and I was screaming out for help, but I couldn't really talk to anyone. I didn't really learn that skill yet to be able to open up to people. And then the suicide attempts got worse to the point where I actually hung myself in my bedroom. The only thing that saved us was, luckily my dad had just came in the house, and he heard a bang. He came up to check us, and it was me actually hanging, and I was blue. I was nearly gone. So it got that dark. It got really bad.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, massive respect for sharing it, massive respect for getting it out there. At this point, just changing direction slightly, you know, if there's somebody out there basically who's feeling like you were feeling then, I think we have to take this opportunity to get your advice in terms of what advice you would give to somebody who's thinking about ending it, thinking about not being here anymore. What would you say to those people if anyone's listening to this?
Don't do it, man. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You've got to talk. The biggest thing for me was talking, getting yourself out there, opening up to people, because there is help out there. People do love you. You are loved. Just know that you are loved. There's a lot of different services that can help you. I mean, you could, like I said, that's the biggest thing. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Um, it's not the end, and it is really not the end. I can't stress that enough. Just talk, man.
Absolutely, yeah. It's powerful advice, you know, because it was you being there. And like I say, if this even touches one person and just convinces them to speak to someone or reach out to someone, then we've done our job. You know what I
Done
mean?
our job exactly. Yeah, yeah,
That's what it's
yeah.
all about. So, we're on the same page with that one. So I have to ask, obviously, with the situation where you hung yourself, you were obviously saved. I don't know how much of this you want to go into, but when you actually like woke up or came round or you were in hospital or whatever happened, what was actually going through your mind at that time when you sort of realized actually, it didn't work and I'm still here type of thing?
Just wow, man. My son could have been left without a father. Not just that, all my friends and my family would have been heartbroken. I kind of had a revelation there and then, like, today's the day. It needs to stop. The next one, I'm not going to wake up. That was my chance, and I took it. And yeah, yeah, it's crazy to talk about, Liam, because this is the first time I've ever really like got really into it. Obviously I've spoke about it, but got really into it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I had done. I really snapped into reality at that moment when I had woke up. I was like, no more. I'm done. This is me. I'm done. I'm going forward from now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, I mean, I know it's the first time you've spoken about it. Really honored that you're speaking about it with myself and with our audience here today as well. By the way, I've got to put that in there. It's that's a special thing. What I will say about it though, man, is just the inspiration. I mean, like I said earlier, it's the big thing about like even as you have more success with boxing and bare knuckle and everything you're doing, you're just going to be able to reach more and more people and help more and more people. And it's just it's a
Yeah.
powerful thing, which we'll get to in a minute. So was it after this time that you were actually diagnosed with, I think bipolar, I think you said, was it after this time, did you sort of start some medication or what was
Yeah,
your
it was
process of that?
after that time, Liam. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So
Okay.
it's just all from it comes from trauma. It just basically means that I feel emotions a bit more powerful than a normal person does. So I'm either really happy, really sad, or really angry. All my emotions are 100% full on. So shortly after that, that's when I was diagnosed. Yeah, I tried a lot of different medications. Um, all medications that really just made us a zombie. Uh, um, it just kept everything at bay, but didn't solve it. You know. But yeah, yeah, a lot of different medication, man.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, this is the thing, I mean, I know sometimes people might need it a little bit to get things on an even keel, but yeah, in the long term, everybody I've met says the same thing, that they're just um they're not living life, I mean, I've had people tell me that
Yeah,
like people have died and all sorts and they don't feel anything about it and you just feel numb and all this and
yeah,
it sounds horrendous, I mean yeah, was good. So obviously with that then, when it came to your process of recovery, your process of sort of bouncing back and realizing, okay, I've got this second chance at life now and I'm going to grab it with both hands, like you were saying just now. What were some of the things you did? Because obviously you found boxing at some point during this recovery and that's helped you a lot. Obviously the medications didn't work, so I'm not sure if you come off them or what you're doing now, but just
yeah.
good just to talk about your like day-to-day process as you were recovering from nearly not being here.
Yeah, so it was just change the lifestyle completely. No alcohol, no drugs, fitness. I joined an MMA gym. That opened my eyes to the world of fitness. That in over a matter of days, just literally days of going, I felt 100%. I thought this is giving me something that no drug could ever give us. Uh, the ultimate buzz, and I was just starting gradually to feel better and better. Clean eating. Um, and yeah, man, just training, just overall fitness, just instantly, instantly just brought the light, turned the light on inside of us.
Yeah, incredible. That's a big thing though, isn't it? I mean, with training, obviously you've got the physical, like the endorphins and the feel good and all that warm feeling, it helps your brain chemistry, but also
Yeah,
there's like a social aspect, knowing people in the gym, that's a big one. obviously having something to focus on. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things I would say to people out there who are struggling as well. Getting in the gym, is a really good thing because it gives you something to focus on. It gives you something to work on and get better step by step. And, some good people and just feel good in your body. And it is a lot
Yeah,
that
yeah.
goes into that. So absolutely. So, okay. So you also mentioned during this time, I think when we were setting this up, you mentioned that your dad had cancer during this point, if you don't mind me mentioning that. Was that before or after the attempt to take your own life?
So that was before. It was I was so caught up in everything that was going on that it was just another thing, another thing to get us down. So I didn't really process that at the time. But yeah, my dad's cancer. He's got multiple myeloma, bone and blood cancer. Um, and we were told he only had 4 or 5 years to live, which he's outlived that now. He's done that, so that's a great thing. Um, but yeah, it was pretty rough because obviously I felt like a burden as well. I didn't want to put my stress on my father, who was going through already so much with himself. Um, yeah, yeah, it's been a rough few years for him. Yeah, but on the bright side, he's doing really well, really really well.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, mate. I'm really glad to hear that because, cancer it's a cruel illness, at the best of times, but especially, an aggressive one like that. But he's it's good he's doing well, and there's always hope, I mean, with the advances that they're making in medicine nowadays and what they can do with science and all that, it's just getting better and better all the
Yeah,
time.
it's getting so much better, so much better.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but he's a fighter, man. He's a fighter. He's
yeah.
uh, he's always pushing on. He's always got a positive attitude, which kind of inspired me in a way that I need to just push on as well. And looking at him, looking at a man who was one of the fittest men I knew, and it just destroyed him. But always seeing that smile on his face and that great attitude that you've no matter what happens, you've just got to keep it moving, inspired me to do the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And you also mentioned obviously that your children are a big inspiration for you as well. And I think we need to mention that because I can tell, when you talk about them when we were messaging each other, but also just now before we started recording, how important your family is to you. So would you say that they've also given you like a massive reason to live and to become a better person over time as well?
Absolutely huge, absolutely huge. I mean, well, I've just got custody over my son, my first son, so I'm absolutely over the moon with that. But yeah, family is everything. My sons are my reason to be here, the reason I'm alive. Like that's the one of the first things I thought about after I'd done that was he could have been left without a father, which, which would have just thinking about it gives us chills. Yeah, that's my motivation and my reason to keep going. My kids are a massive, massive part of my life.
Absolutely, yeah. It's amazing. And obviously you're showing them by your example as well, how to never give up and how to become the best version of yourself you can be and all of this good stuff. So again, massive respect for that. So coming into the fighting side of things as well, obviously by this point you'd been doing MMA, you'd been sort of involved in that type of thing, you'd been involved in boxing. So at what point did it go from like, okay, this is really cool, I like doing a bit of fitness, I like being involved, to actually I can compete and actually fight and everything. Was that like a quick decision for you, or did it sort of take a little bit of time for you to like settle into the gym and figure out what you wanted to do, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, so I always knew I could fight, like by scrapping on the streets. And I mean, I'd done a bit of boxing when I was younger, and I always wanted to be a fighter. I've always wanted to be a champion. It's something I really, really wanted to be. So yeah, I got in the MMA gym, and I just knew I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to fight. I haven't had any MMA fights, but I've had some bare knuckle fights, but these are just on the street, not with a big or like event like Spartan, a big company like that. But yeah, it was something that I wanted to do straight away. I just knew that I wanted to fight. I wanted to be a fighter.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you're absolutely living the dream with that side of things. So let's jump into it with Spartan. I mean, starting at the beginning, how did you first find out about them and like everything they're doing?
Well, I found out about for my best friend's uncle. You've interviewed him, Billy Mason.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was fighting on Spartan, and I just thought, do you know what it is? How do I get involved in that? How do I get involved in that? So I messaged Billy, and he told us to message a guy called Christian Roberts, CEO of Spartan Fight Club. I messaged Christian, and I was welcomed with open arms. Open arms. I got messaged him, got the ball rolling, and I joined Spartan. Luckily, they had a show coming up. I think it was about 2 months before I joined. So I got myself straight on that, signed up, got myself straight into it. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so
Just
that's
jump
for
in.
me. Fighting with no gloves. That's the ultimate. Get me on that.
Yeah, the ultimate test. Well, you mentioned some good guys there. Shout out to Billy, Billy
Yes,
Mason, great
massive shout
guy.
out to Billy, man.
Yeah. And massive shout out to Christian Roberts as well. Absolute
Yes,
legend.
giant shout out to Christian.
Yeah,
What a gentleman.
absolutely. Got all the respect in the world for that guy. So good to give them a mention as well. So coming into the fight itself, obviously the European title fight. With this, I don't really have like one specific question about it, but just your memories from the fight and what you've taken away from it, really. I know it wasn't the result you wanted, but at the same time, it was still an amazing experience. Massive respect for getting in there. Pretty much the most brutal form of combat in the world, really. You know, with the
Yeah.
close and personal. So yeah, the fight in your own words would be awesome to hear about, to be honest.
Yes. So I took that. So I was meant to fight two other people before that. Them two had dropped out. I don't know the circumstances why. About a month before the fight, Christian rang us saying, Gary, do you want to fight Ben Warrington for the EU title? I said, that's me, boss. Get me in there. Get me in there. I'll take the fight. Yeah. So yeah, training up to that. We got in, and the first time I seen that pit, that is so much smaller than the photographs. I mean, 8 by 8. There's no room to maneuver. It's nothing like a ring. Um, yeah. Got inside. Um, and I don't really remember much because it was over so quick. It was over in a flash. I mean, it's so surreal how fast it went. Because so when it started, I think I'm gonna box, but then I was like, oh, I can't box. There's no room to think in that, man. It's just literally all out war, swing. It's hell from the bell, hell from the bell. Um, but yeah, I thought I landed some decent shots. I think I could have done a lot better. Um, but it was just when you try to think about it, like think about boxing, that's when you mess up. You just need to you just need to swing, have a good chin and good cardio, and just swing because it's nothing like I've ever done before. I mean, like sparring in the ring, and it's totally different. It's a different kettle of fish to that. It's just it's brutal, man. It's brutal, but I love it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the win. I got stopped just at the start of the second round. I took a heavy right hand straight on my nose. It snapped my nose. My nose was spread across my face. But the medics decided to stop that fight, which is I could have kept going, but it's for the best. But I left with some good knowledge now. You know, after your first, I just needed that first fight to be able to right. This is what I need to do now. My second fight will be a knockout, God willing.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that. I mean, let's talk about the future because you've jumped in there with, like I mentioned earlier, you know, one of the most brutal forms of combat anywhere in the world, man. It's insane. And as well as that, you know, I mean, against a great opponent as well.
Yeah, yeah,
I need to mention because top quality opponent. I mean, he's been over there on King of the Streets and he's fought for Spartan. He's fought for like other bare knuckle companies, like I think in the ring as well. Ben has, you know, he's been around.
yeah.
So
Tough guy, man. Respect the Ben Warrington.
yeah, big shout out to Ben as well, you know, absolutely. So that was a good one. So yeah, you know, I mean, moving on from that in terms of like your future plans and what you want to do from here, let's talk a little bit about the future and you know what your next steps are basically.
So hopefully, I think Christian's announcing the fight card at some point tonight for Spartan Wars. I think it's June the 24th. So hopefully I'll be on that card and get me a second fight. Hopefully my first win, which it will be, man, because I'm training hard now. I mean, I'm training five times a week. Um, Absolutely smashing it. So, and I know what to expect now. I know what to expect going in there. I feel like I found my feet. You just need that first fight under your belt to really know what it's about. Um, yeah, the future for me, I want to go on with Spartan. I mean, I love Spartan. The absolutely amazing, amazing band of brothers. The love that I was welcomed with. I mean, on the first show, just the guys, man, I was showing nothing but love and respect, nothing but love and respect. So I feel like I want to do a lot with Spartan, a lot with Spartan. Um, and then after that, I don't know, maybe go on some big shows, hopefully, get some belts under me wing.
Absolutely. Well, like I was saying earlier, man, I mean, the future is very bright for you. You're young, you're just starting out, like, you've already been in there with one of the best, and everything from here, it's on the up and up. And as well as that, I mean, you've got sort of a mental edge as well, because bearing in mind, I mean, you faced death. I mean, you faced like basically, you faced like the ultimate fear for most people, and come back. So I think, and it's not aimed at anybody else saying anyone's better than anyone. I'm not saying like that, but I really think like with what you've been through in your life, you've got like the power inside of you to really go a long way.
Yeah.
Because you faced some stuff that's a lot worse than just having a scrap, if you get what I mean. It's a simple way to put it. So amazing. Let's give a quick mention to a couple of other things. I want to just briefly mention what it's like at a Spartan show in terms of the atmosphere. And I know this, this, people who fight for Spartan knows this. But if there's anyone watching this and they haven't been to a show yet, can you give them a little sort of sneak peek about like what they would expect type of thing from it?
Get yourself down there, man. I mean, Spartan have got some of the best fans in the fight industry, and that's a fact. I mean, the last show, sold out show, the fans were absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. It was just a good atmosphere, a great night. Um, every fight's either a stoppage or a knockout, so it's non-stop action. So it's not like where you're going to watch a boxing event and you might not see anything like that for at least like 10, 11 fights, but with Spartan it's every other fight. So it's a great atmosphere. Something to go and watch, man. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And the other thing I love about it as well is there's so much respect in Spartan
So
and in
much.
the game. I mean, this is the other thing you don't see in every promotion. Is obviously guys will fight in Spartan, and then they give it the absolute all, tear up and everything. They go have a pint or something afterwards and just chill out and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, and that's it. It's where else can you go and do that, Liam? Where else can you punch each other's heads in and then just go and have a pint at the bar after, shake hands? It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love it. So, last couple of things then, because like I said, the future is very, very bright for you. I meant to ask you earlier, actually, and it slipped my mind, but you've also got a very sort of iconic tattoo of no remorse. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't usually ask people about that. It might seem a bit random, but to be quite honest with you, I was just curious as to what the inspiration behind that was, if it was something like for your fighting or if it was something from
So
like.
it was just show in yeah, it was a big thing to do with fighting. It was just more so like show no fear, show no mercy in combat, just go all out, absolute. Yeah, that's so it's basically just like the centerpiece for me. It just shows that fearless, just ruthless in battle. So yeah, that's what it's for me. That's what it is. No remorse. Yeah,
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, it's a proper, warrior tattoo and everything, and I wouldn't ask everybody that, but I just think it's
yeah,
pretty neat to be fair. So that's very cool. You mentioned earlier about Spartan having some of the best fans and some of the best people, and one of the I often close out these interviews by giving thank yous, and what I mean by that is like for you to give a shout out to the people who've helped you not only in fighting but also in like the people who've been there for you with the mental health stuff, and the people who've supported you just basically to still be here today. I don't mind, because obviously the thing, just to be clear about this, the thing about support is it comes in all different forms. It could be somebody who's right up close to you and helps you every day, or it could be somebody who just messages you on social media and says, hey, don't give up and keep going and all that. So I don't really mind where we go with it, but just people you'd like to thank really would be awesome.
yeah. So my family as a whole, massive shout out to my family, my children, obviously my mum and dad who supported us through thick and thin, and a massive shout out to Spartan, man. Shout out to Christian Roberts for opening that door to us and helping us change my life. And shout out to everyone from Spartan, man. Shout out to all the brothers there. It's nothing but love, nothing but love. And shout out to you as well, Liam. Thank you very much for getting us on the interview, man.
Hey, you're
I
welcome.
know you're out here. I know you're out here changing lives, mate.
Well, doing my best. Like I said to you earlier on, man, if it touches even one or two people or makes a little difference in people's lives, we've done our job, you know. And it's one of those things where these days, you know, I get messages from all around the world of people saying, oh, you know, you've inspired me, you've given me hope, you've given me this, that, and the other. And that's what makes it all worthwhile at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's not just me. I mean, it's all about like the mutual thing with the people we have on. But yeah, I'm grateful for your time. Appreciate the kind words. And I'll just say to all the fans out there, keep an eye on this man, because there's some big things that are coming, big things ahead. So yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, man.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time again, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for being an open book as well and talking about some very, very, very personal stuff. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having us on, Liam. Thank you very much, mate. Cheers. You're going
No
to see a
worries.
lot more from me.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.